Let's talk about intellectual property and what is it, why is it important for your MSP, and how crazy do you actually need to get with it? Because there are some things that you 100% need to know about, and there's also some things that you probably don't need to worry about for quite a while, if not ever. And I'm going to be covering as much as I know on that topic. My name is Harrison Marin from growth-generators.com. We help MSPs grow from digital marketing to sales training and even some business operations in there as well. Before I get into today's video, I do have to mention, as always, down in the video description and the podcast description, there are tons of super helpful links. Those links can vary tremendously, and there's one link on there. If you go to growth-generators.com/resources, and I'll share my screen here, you could see that there is a full resources page. We're constantly updating it here, but there are tons of tools, free stuff all down here that you can go grab, download, use as you see fit. I try to create as much as I can, and all of that goes into the additional tools area. So I would highly recommend checking that out. So what is intellectual property rights, or IP as most people call it? Intellectual property. Who owns the thoughts, the processes, and the ideas? Typically, as the owner, this is going to come a lot from you, but there's also a lot of areas that you have to be kind of careful of that you can't necessarily say are yours. What I mean by that is the tools that you use are owned by other companies, but the way in which you use those tools could be your intellectual property, your secret sauce, as we can say. Now, there are a ton of different areas that go into intellectual property. That is patents, right? If you create something totally new, totally unique, something that the industry has never seen before, you can patent that. You have copyrights, you have trade secrets, and there are a ton of other kind of little caveats that go out throughout this process as well. Now, when you're just starting out, it's going to be kind of tough because a lot of this, and this is not legal advice, nothing in this video is legal advice. You should 100% speak to a lawyer because they're going to be the experts in this. But when you're just starting out, you probably don't have the finances to go hire a lawyer and do all of this, because it's not really worth it. It's a poor use of money for quite a while. But your IPR, or intellectual property rights, are super important over time. And some of them you kind of just weirdly get, and others you actually have to go hire a IP firm to do the trademarks, to do the patents on certain things. You might even be able to license things out as well over time, but it is legal protection and also can give you marketing advantage or market advantage, which is ultimately going to result in you making more money. Because if you can create something, trademark something, protect something that somebody else might want or might want to create, they now can't just copy your idea and steal it and remake it over and over and over again. They actually either cannot do that, or they can pay you for every time they use it, assuming you fill out a license agreement. But there are tons of different types of IPs that you need to be worried about, or at least know about. Number one is going to be patents. So patents are truly kind of strange because you can patent certain things, but you can't patent everything. But one of the easy ones to think about is a unique software that you might create. So something that doesn't already exist, or something that does something completely different than what is already on the market. Now, this could be super creative, or this could be fairly boring. As long as it serves its purpose and you can prove that there's nothing else out there that does the exact same thing, you could technically file a patent on that. It's 100% possible. Should you? Well, if you want to spend the money for it, to each their own. The next part of that is going to be trademarks. So when you hear somebody say like a registered trademark, that's what they mean. Now, I'm actually going to use an example from my last video, which I talked about a company called Answer the Public, which creates something. Now, Neil Patel has his own company. It's quite popular actually, but he has an NP Digital, right? Neil Patel is the guy that actually owns it, and he has Answer the Public. Now, I'd be hard pressed to believe that it isn't protected under a trademark. So when it's protected under a trademark, you have your logos, you have a slogan, you have the name. All of that is important. That all kind of builds into the brand, which you 100% can trademark. And all the big companies that you might be thinking of all already, Nike, Under Armour, Adobe, all trademark their stuff. It has to look a certain way. It has to be presented in a certain way, all because that's their intellectual property. Whether or not they hired people to do it or not, it's still it's the company's intellectual property. So it's really important to understand that trademarks exist for a reason. And then you could go deeper and deeper. And that's not the point of this video, but it's to bring awareness that there are certain things that are out there. Next, you have copyrights. Now, trademarks are more of the brand identity, where copyrights is more of the stuff that it creates, right? And I'm going to share my screen again out to the public. But software, right, is huge. Marketing materials is huge. And then website content. All of this is their copyrighted software as you progressively mess through out to the public. And it really falls on just about any platform out there. You can see like this is all part of that process. All of their website content is part of that copyright. It's copyrighted information. If somebody was to either go into the back end, steal it, an employee was to leak it out, they're leaking intellectual property. And I would be hard pressed to believe that it isn't already copyrighted. There is a ton in here, and this is what gives them their competitive advantage. They have to put it on copyright, because if they didn't, anybody could just go grab the information and steal it and then hope that they're getting the best. It's their algorithm, it's their website, their marketing materials, their software. All of that can be copyrighted, so that way other people can't steal it. And if they do, they can take legal actions against that person. And last but not least, you may or may not have already heard of this, but trade secrets, that secret sauce we always talk about, there are proprietary things that we do. Our client lists, believe it or not, are part of our secret sauce, because as you grow, you're going to get more leads. And those leads are how you grow your business. So if an employee steals that, they're actually stealing your IP, your intellectual property, because they could give that out to somebody else who might be a direct competitor, and that can have a massive, massive hit on your business. Your trade secrets 100%. And that's kind of a gray area, because you can't really patent it, you can't copyright your process, but they're your trade secrets. It's what you do to be successful. And in this world, you might have an RMM tool, a PSA tool, a CRM, and you make everything work, and it has this crazy process where you get a lead, they go through this crazy system that you've built, they become a customer, they go into your RMM and PSA tool, they start getting billed every month, you build scripts that just fix things. That's your secret sauce. That is what can make you tremendously, tremendously successful. And you have to be protected, and employees have to know that. Now, you can go through and do something about that. What I typically recommend is an employee handbook. Reaching out to an HR company, it could be just about any of them. I haven't partnered up with one, but hey, if you are one, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've made it this far in the video, that like button, notification bell, and subscribe button, love you guys, are super, super important. But I have gone through tons of jobs in the past where they make you sign, hey, this is our intellectual property. What you learn here is our intellectual property. You do not own any of these things. You're just employed to do the work that we need you to do. That's super important to have that legal barrier up. So if there's a breach, you can then take legal actions. And I'm not saying you need to go sue your employees for it, but hey, you can't just not have it, because then they can go out without having any legal recourse there. Now, common IP issues that most MSPs will face at some point, or as they progressively grow and grow and grow. The number one that I see, I've heard about this, is infringement. Now, what is infringement? I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but infringing upon what? If it's your secret sauce, if it's that copywriting, that trademark, those patents, if they are infringing and they're either giving that away or they're sharing that out, you are infringing on that IP. Now, you can also infringe on contracts, the legal contracts that you sign. A contract protects you as the business, but also protects everybody else in a weird way, because now both parties, whether that's an employee and you or you and a vendor, whomever it might be, there's a legal barrier there where both parties fully understand what can actually happen. And if there's a breach or there's an infringement, there should be some kind of information going through that process. But the most common thing, and most people don't even realize, in most cases, at least in the MSP world, it's a little slap on the wrist. Hey, don't let it happen again. If you do, we're going to have to take some actions. Yes, there could be things that leak. And in today's day and age, people get hacked all the time. It's kind of crazy out there. Employees get spiteful. It can happen to anybody. It's important to have these involved, especially as you grow. So I'm not just going to leave you with all this. I want to give you a couple quick best practices across the board. Number one is you have to document. If you don't document and you're just like, well, this is my process, and there's nothing to actually prove that that's a process or it's written down that says, hey, this is the process that we go through, it doesn't really exist. I'd love to tell you otherwise, but a judge is going to look at that and a lawyer is going to look at that and laugh. It has to exist somewhere for somebody to steal it, right? If you share an idea with somebody and there's nothing written down on paper about it, guess what? That person has full right to steal that idea in a weird way. You have to document. The more documentation, the better. The more you explain to people and write that down, the better. The secret sauce, written down, great. But it has to be written down. If it's not fully documented with timestamps, proper filing, proper security, all of that, because the courts will look at that. I've literally heard about this kind of stuff happening. I thankfully haven't had to go deal with any of it, but I've heard this happening to friends of mine in the MSP world. They have had to go to court because they didn't document it. I've also heard of friends winning in court because they did document it correctly. Document. If there's anything you get from this video, just document everything. Please document everything. Make sure it saves. Make sure there's a history you could show as the updates go. It will help you and it'll save your rear end down the road. Number two is what I talked about in the beginning of this video. Get a lawyer. Please get a lawyer. You might not have one for the first couple months or the first couple years of owning a business. Fine. But as soon as you can financially, take out my fake money here, as soon as you can financially afford a lawyer, please go get a lawyer. Have them start to look over your legal documents. Make sure everything's buttoned up. I get it. You're starting a business. You might not have the budget that you want to fully pay for all of these things. Totally understand that. I bootstrapped myself. Please get a lawyer. It is only going to help you down the road. Getting a lawyer, having them look over it, telling them about the business and what you do so they can craft and create paperwork that you might legally need down the road is important. But having legal protection, having a legal representative who knows your business, who can write this kind of stuff up is important. Now, the third part about this, and you shouldn't have to deal with this, but this is a huge issue right now that I keep seeing, believe it or not, on TikTok. There's a company called Momofuku, if I remember correctly. It's by a famous chef. He makes chili oil. Now, you might be thinking, that's kind of silly. He bought, I believe, the trademark Chili Crisp, I think is the exact name. He now has to go through and monitor and enforce his brand across the world, unless it's just a national patent or national trademark. The thing is you have to consistently show that you're enforcing this. I did hear this from a lawyer, so take it for what it is, but this is not legal advice. But anytime if you trademark, patent, or anything like that, you have to be vigilant. You have to be attacking people regularly if they are infringing on your intellectual property. The reason being is if you do have to go to court, the court system is going to want to see that you are perpetually and actively monitoring and enforcing your patents, copyrights, your intellectual property. That way you actually have a case, because if you just decide on one case that you want to enforce it, it's not going to fly. It's all or nothing. Even if you file most of what I've spoken about already, if you're not monitoring and you're not enforcing it when you see it, you can run into big problems down the road. Might not appear first, might not appear for a little while, but there's 100% the opportunity to have that come down. So I'm giving you fair warning. If you do decide to go down the legal rabbit hole, which I'm not against, whatever you decide to do is totally up to you. You have to make sure you monitor and you enforce your intellectual property rights. It is all documented. It is incredibly, incredibly important as you go through this process. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. I have been consuming tons of this content today, and I'm glad I finally made a video on it because I think it's interesting. I keep hearing a lot about our secret sauce, and that's great. Just write everything down and document it appropriately. Love the heck out of you guys. As always, I will see you guys on the next video. Like, subscribe, notify, and if you think I missed something, or if you have an interesting question, leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to help you guys out. Other than that, I'll see you guys later. Love you guys.